Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to talk about types of sentences and presented by Prof. Iman Adil Jafar. First of all, a sentence is a group of words that come together to express complete thoughts. And usually a sentence, it's easy to understand, enables us to understand ideas and learn information. In fact, there are types of sentences according to structure and according to function. The types of sentences according to structure, we have four sentence structures. Structures means the form of the sentence. We have simple sentence, compound sentence, complex sentence, and compound complex sentence. Let's see examples for each and every one of these types. Simple sentences, independent, it contains one independent clause. Independent clause means there's a clause that can stand alone with a complete meaning without help from other parts of sentences. I kicked the ball. I kicked the ball. Here I subject, kicked verb, and the ball is object. So one subject, one verb, and the rest of the sentence. Another sentence, which is a compound sentence. A compound sentence, we have independent, two or more independent clauses. There must be two or more independent clauses connected by a coordinator. For example, I kicked the ball, comma, and it hit Tom. So we have in this compound sentence, we have two subjects and two verbs connected, two simple sentences connected by a coordinator. Since we have two independent clauses, that means this is a compound, مركبة, compound sentence. The first sentence, I kicked the ball, which is correct, that can stand alone with a complete meaning without the help of the rest of the sentence. The same goes with the second sentence. It hit Tom. It, subject, hit, verb, and Tom, object. So we have here I is a subject in the first sentence and it is the second subject in the second sentence. So that's why it is called a compound sentence and it is connected or linked by a coordinator. A third type of a sentence, which is complex sentence. A complex sentence, it contains an independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. What is the difference between independent and dependent clauses? Independent clause, that means it can stand alone with a complete meaning. While dependent clause, dependent means it depends on, تعتمد على. So it needs help from the independent clause. An example here, Tom cried because the ball hit him. So the independent clause, Tom cried. Tom cried here. This is a subject with a verb, and this is a sentence with a complete meaning. Because this is the conjunction, from because till the end, this is the dependent clause. We cannot say that the ball hit him and we stop. It needs help from the independent clause. A fourth type of sentences that are arranged structurally, we have compound complex sentences. We need two or more independent clauses and one, at least one or more dependent clause. So we can call it a compound complex sentence. Tommy cried because the ball hit him, and I apologized immediately. So if you notice here that Tommy cried, this is one independent clause. We have another independent clause which can be identified by and I apologized immediately, another independent clause. And we have because the ball hit him, this is the dependent clause or the subordinated clause that cannot stand alone. So, again, to summarize, types based on sentence structure: simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences. To define each, simple sentences. A simple sentence contains a subject and a verb, and it may have an object and a modifier. For example, we have only one independent clause. Examples for simple sentences: she wrote, subject and a verb. She completed her literature review, subject, verb, her literature review object. He organized his sources by theme. We have subject, verb, object, and adverb. They studied APA rules for many years. Okay, all these are examples of simple sentences. How can we know them? Because we have one subject, one verb, and the rest of the sentence. We don't have two subjects, two verbs. That's why this is called a simple sentence. Now, we have a definition of compound sentences. A compound sentence contains at least two independent clauses. These two independent clauses can be combined with a comma and a coordinating conjunction. So this is the linking conjunction, or with a semicolon. Here are examples of compound sentences. She completed her literature review. This is in one independent clause, and which is linked with another independent clause. She created her reference list. So if you notice here in this compound sentence that we have two subjects, she and she. We have two verbs, completed and created, and linked by a conjunction, أداة ربط. Another example, he organized his sources by theme, then he updated his reference list. Again, we have two subjects, two verbs. They studied APA rules for many hours, but they realized that there was still much to learn. So we have they and they studied, realized. So the coordinating conjunctions are especially used with compound sentences. أدوات ربط الجمل المركبة. How can you memorize them? There are 7 coordinating conjunctions in English language. You can remember them with the easy memory trick. Grouped in one word here, fan boys. F stands for, A for and, N for nor, B for but, or, yet, and so. So this is the list of the coordinating conjunctions that can be used with compound sentences, with a compound sentence. For, to explain reason or purpose, it means because. And, connect two similar ideas or things. Nor, connects two negative alternatives. but connect two contrasting or opposite ideas, or connects two choices or alternatives. Here we have yet connects or a contrasting idea means but or despite that, and so shows a result or a consequence. So these are the coordinating conjunctions. You can memorize them easily by grouping them in one word. These are specially used with compound sentences. Okay, the third type of sentences, complex sentences, جمل المعقدة. A complex sentence, what is the meaning of a complex sentence? It contains at least one independent clause and at least one dependent clause. Dependent clauses can refer to the subject, sometimes to who, which, and or to a sequence or time or any casual element, okay, of the independent clause. So if a sentence begins with a dependent clause, so we can note the comma after the clause. On the other hand, the sentence begins with an independent clause, there is another a comma separating the two clauses. For example, here, although she completed her literature review, comma, she still needed to work on her method section. So where is the dependent clause? This is the dependent clause or the subordinating clause. We can know it from the, here we have conjunction. Conjunctions can be used with complex sentences. And this is the independent clause. Why? Because if we delete the first part, she still needed to work on her method section is a complete sentence that can stand alone. Okay, another example. Because he organized his sources by theme, it was easier for his readers to follow. So we have a dependent clause and independent clause. Two clauses. One is dependent and the other is independent. That's why this is called a complex sentence. Another example. They studied APA rules for many hours as they were so interested. Okay? Or before sleeping, she did her work. All these examples of complex sentences. The last type of sentences that is related to structure. Compound complex sentence. Sentence types can be also combined. A compound complex sentence contains at least two independent, so we must have in this type at least two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. And we have many examples here. She completed her literature review, but she still needs to work on her methods. Okay. But she still needs to work on her method section, even though she finished her methods course last semester. This is the most difficult. This is considered the most difficult type of sentences here. Another example, with pizza and soda at hand, they studied APA rules for many hours, and they decided that writing in APA made sense because it was clear, concise, and objective. So we can see here with pizza and soda at hand, this is one dependent clause. Okay. Sorry. They studied APA rules for many hours and they decided that writing in APA made sense. This is a compound sentence because we can see the coordinator and we have this because it was clear, concise, and objective. This is a dependent clause. Okay, this is a dependent or subordinate clause. Here with pizza and soda at hand, this is adverb. This is related to the first independent clause. That's it. This for the first part of the types of sentences according to structure. The second part will be related to types of sentences that are according to function. Thanks for watching.